morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice Radio, and it is a very good morning today, because we received rather lovely, if extremely obvious news from the lovely folks at Pokémon yesterday. You see, ladies and gentlemen, a tweet came out saying, we're aware, this is from Play Pokémon, the official, well, it's not Pokémon, but it is the official Play Pokémon. There we go. So this is more about the actual gameplay, the competitive side of it, as opposed to at Pokémon, which is a brand as a whole. We're aware that some fans are experiencing difficulties purchasing certain TCG products due to very high demand. In response, we are reprinting impacted products at maximum capacity to ensure more fans can enjoy the Pokémon trading card game. And they did put a little thing up on the website to give a little bit more information. We're aware that some of you are experiencing difficulties purchasing certain Pokémon trading card game products due to very high demand and global shipping constraints impacting availability. We understand this inconvenience can be disappointing for fans, and we are working to address it where it is within our control. In situations where there is limited availability, we are actively working to print more of the impacted Pokémon TCG products as quickly as possible and at maximum capacity to support this increased demand. Reprinted products are expected to be available at retailers as soon as possible. For new Pokémon TCG expansions launching in the future, we are maximising production to increase product availability upon release, and we will continue to reprint the products to replenish stock at retailers as soon as possible. We'd like to thank the community for their continued support and patience as we work to deliver more Pokémon TCG products to fans. And this is just about the most obvious and predictable announcement possible. Because if anybody didn't actually think that this would happen, then all I can say is there's just absolutely no understanding of business there. Now, what I should say is that for those of you that don't know, my background is as a professional business teacher. So when it comes to business, I like to think I know what I'm talking about. I have done a huge amount of research, been teaching it for a decade and a half, run departments, etc. Business is kind of my wheelhouse. And essentially, the Pokémon Company International, like the majority of companies, is a profit-making business. It exists to make money. And you're essentially talking about a situation where products are being sold so fast that the shelves are empty, and consumers are crying out for more stock so that they can buy. So you've got a situation here where if Pokemon start printing more product, they are all but guaranteed to sell it and make a huge amount of money. In what world would they not do that? Now, I've been saying this for months, that there is absolutely no way Pokemon are not going to print as much as they possibly can to make as much money as they can. When you're talking about printing products like this, there's essentially two ways it can go. Either you risk overprinting, and then you waste money because you've got unsold products or products you have to lower the cost. Or you risk underprinting and you leave sales on the table. And a lot of the time you go a little bit more towards leaving sales on the table, because if you keep overprinting and wasting money, that's how you don't make money. But when you've got a situation like Pokemon have got at the moment, and we've all seen it, where store shelves are empty, where people are struggling to actually get hold of product, where scalping is running rampant, we'll hit that a little bit at the end of the video, then Pokemon can look at this and go, well, hang on a second, this isn't really a question anymore. We keep printing, because actually all the evidence we've got and all the numbers we've got suggest we can sell a lot more than we're currently selling, so all of a sudden we ramp up production. But you've got to remember that this is something that takes time. I showed you a video the other day about how Cosmic Eclipse is getting a reprint. And a common response I got to that video was people going, well, hang on a second. They've just released Vivid Voltage. Vivid Voltage isn't on store shelves at the moment. Vivid Voltage is selling out everywhere. Why are they printing Cosmic Eclipse and not Vivid Voltage? And the answer is extremely simple. They realized that Cosmic Eclipse was selling really well and that a reprint would also sell well. So they started working on a reprint. It's ready and about to come out. They realized that Vivid Voltage was selling well. They ordered a reprint. It's not out yet. There's more Vivid... Of course there's more Vivid Voltage coming. Why would there not be more Vivid Voltage coming? Now, I did get a tweet from somebody who generally tends to know about this kind of stuff, who has said that there are going to be reprints of Vivid Voltage. I mean, that was pretty obvious, admittedly, because it's the most recent set. Of course they're going to reprint that. Champion's Path, and again, if you've looked at how well Champion's Path is selling, that's one that could be predicted. And Darkness Ablaze, I did tell you recently, is going to be getting a reprint. That is actually due in about a month's time. They should be out. And that's the thing, right? These reprints, it's not a 5-minute job, ladies and gentlemen. It takes, weeks if you rush it. Because you've got to make the product, and that includes getting all the materials to the factory. Then you've got to assemble the product. Then you've got to ship it out to the distributors. Then the distributors have got to ship it out to the shops. This takes a long time. It's not a 2-week turnaround thing. And while we're here, can we please just say that the supply issues are not Pokemon's fault? We are in the middle of a damn panic, as my 2-year-old calls it. And essentially, in a pandemic, what we've got is an awful lot of things going on, not limited to a lot of people aren't at work at the moment because of the pandemic. And so companies are running at reduced capacity, which means less stock is actually being produced. And it means that shipping containers and boats and all, how the product actually gets to us, which incidentally in and of itself takes weeks. You can do it by air, but doing it by air as opposed to shipping container is hilariously more expensive. And I mean, like, it's not even remotely close. If everything was shipped by air, you would see a gigantic increase in prices. So essentially, making it is more difficult and shipping it takes longer. And all of a sudden, we're surprised that there's been slightly lower supply than we might expect. Anyone who's been following the pandemic from a business point of view could have told you that everyone is going to be getting supply issues. Over on my other channel, Wassy Plays, I've been talking about Digimon, and we've had the exact same thing. Whole bunch of people yelling about Digimon and Bandai who run the game. Oh, they don't know what they're doing. They can't run the game. They've botched the launch. Where's all the stock? And Bandai have come out and said, well, hang on a second. It's really hard to produce right now because of the pandemic. And distribution is massively impacted because of the pandemic. And Bandai have come out and said explicitly, we are printing more stock. More stock is coming. It is delayed, etc., but it is coming. Hold your horses. And that is exactly where we are with Pokemon. If we go back to the wording of their announcement, address it where it is within our control. Global shipping constraints impacting availability, i.e., it's not easy right now. And of course, demand has been extremely high. We all know there have been certain YouTubers who have been really pushing the game in a way that a lot of fans are not terribly happy with. I don't want to talk too much about that. But we're also heading into Pokemon's 25th anniversary, which is getting people very, very excited. But the fact of the matter is, we are in a boom period for Pokemon at the moment. Demand is extremely high, and it's being pushed by very high-profile YouTubers, and this all perpetuates itself. So we're in this kind of perfect storm where demand is higher than it's been. I mean, the last time the Pokemon brand as a whole, and the TCG specifically, was seeing this much publicity and, was this popular, was on the launch of Pokemon Go, which became an absolute worldwide phenomenon. And when you combine that with the serious supply challenges going on with the whole global pandemic thing, anyone who's surprised at the lack of supply has not really been paying attention to the business side of the pandemic. And I don't say that as an insult. Again, I'm someone who's been teaching business professionally for a decade and a half. I expect that I'm probably going to be paying more attention to this than your average person. And similarly, anybody who thinks that Pokemon would not instantly turn around and try and address this as fast as possible, again, just isn't paying attention to the business realities. I mean, the report came out in June of this year that Pokemon Company had a profit, that is to the fiscal year ending in 2020, of $143 million US, which is an increase of 14.8% on 2019, which was not a shabby year at all. And don't get me wrong, we saw that the games launched in November 2019, so the fiscal year 2019 to 2020 obviously is going to include the launch of Sword and Shield, so that is obviously going to impact it. But the fact of the matter is that the Pokemon Company International, they're a very successful business that turns over a huge profit. If you look at revenue, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. And to be fair, now, they haven't actually run the Pokemon trading card game since its inception. It was originally, for the first couple of years, run by Wizards of the Coast, then People What Make Magic. But since we saw the release of the Skyridge expansion, which launched in English on May 2003, so you're talking near enough 18 years ago, the game has been run by the Pokemon Company, although it took a little while to actually merge from Nintendo to the actual what we now call the Pokemon Company International, but essentially you're coming on to 20 years of them running the card game. And it's been run successfully for the past 20 years. And it's gone through, peaks and troughs and all of that, as you might expect. But you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company that is making huge profits, that has run a game successfully for 20 years, that has seen a huge increase in demand. And people are actually surprised to see that they are ramping up production to try and meet demand. This should have been an extremely obvious prediction to make, because of course a successful company that sees a huge spike in demand and has struggled to keep up with supply is going to increase supply to try and take advantage of it and make more money. That is literally the entire point of their company, is to make money. They're a profit-making business. So of course, what is that going to do to the price of cards? So let's take something like the Rainbow Rare Pikachu V Max that came around in Vivid Voltage, the money card from the most recent set. This has been a very expensive card up to now. And it really depends how much Vivid Voltage Pokemon print. I know a lot of people have not been able to buy what they want. So if Pokemon really ramp up production, then the price of this Pikachu V Max is going to drop more and more and more. The more supply is out there, the more the price is going to drop, because not everybody wants to go and spend, $400 on a high-end card. So as soon as the amount of people that want to spend that money is equal to the amount of cards that are out there, then you're still going to be able to sell that card for a significantly lower price. And at least in the short to medium term, these quote-unquote money cards from recent sets, you should see the value drop. And supply, we should see a fairly significant increase over the next few months, which means the value of these cards is going to drop and drop and drop. And it means the value of sealed products is going to keep dropping. People who have been investing in sealed booster boxes of Vivid Voltage, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say maybe that wasn't the cleverest idea. Because it was inevitable that boxes of Vivid Voltage would be printed. I could say the same thing about Elite Trainer boxes, which we imagine are going to be reprinted as well. Now, if you take something like a Build and Battle box, no, they aren't going to be reprinted, because they're not part of the usual run. They are made for pre-releases, so Build and Battle boxes should hold their value quite nicely. And of course, you've got the pre-release Charizard in there. So if you really wanted to invest in a Vivid Voltage product, that should have been the one that you invested in, because the chances of Pokemon doing a reprint of Build and Battle boxes, which are only made for pre-releases, yeah, that's quite low. They weren't going to reprint them. But trying to stash booster boxes of Vivid Voltage, a reprint was inevitable. Which means that there's going to be a whole bunch of stock out there for RRP, which means if you bought them at RRP, to try and sell them above RRP, the recommended retail price, MSRP I think they say in the US, well, that was silly. That was never going to work. Now, if you want to go and buy yourself a box of an old set, a Wizards of the Coast era set, yeah, that's going to hold its value. There's no way that's being reprinted. But Vivid Voltage, come on. You're basically, if you're trying to make money off of sealed boxes of Vivid Voltage, you are betting that a successful company that's been running a successful card game for almost 20 years is going to not reprint a set, despite the fact that the demand is higher than the supply they've been able to do. And it's in the middle of a pandemic when supply was inevitably going to be low anyway. And the company was always going to address this. This was always going to happen. And that brings me on to the final point of the video. Scalpers. People who run to shops, buy everything on the shelf so that they can sell you stuff above recommended retail price. And the answer to scalpers is very simple. Ignore them. If you ignore them, they will go away. because they have had to buy at retail price. So if we just don't buy off them, then they're going to have to sell them at retail price. Except actually, if I can buy them from shops or scalpers, I'm going to buy them from shops where I've got buyer protection, the law's on my side and all of that. So actually, these scalpers are going to buy at retail price and are going to have to sell below retail price. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that scalpers are going to get pretty bored of that pretty quickly. So if you want to buy Vivid Voltage, Champions Path, sets like this, just ignore anyone selling over retail price, and they will go away, because when the reprints happen, and we know the reprints are coming now, we've literally been told, scalpers are going to be left with a whole bunch of product that they cannot move. Incidentally, in terms of reprints, you would imagine Pokemon are going to be focused on Team Up On, because that is essentially the most recent sets, the ones that are tournament legal, the ones that are in the highest demand. So I wouldn't go too crazy with older sets, assuming they're going to be reprinted. Assume that the reprint's going to be focusing on the more recent and more in-demand sets. But take Shining Fates, for instance. I know an awful lot of people are very upset about Shining Fates and about how they've not been able to get stock, especially of the Elite Trainer box. There are definitely going to be reprints coming, ladies and gentlemen. And I know you might not be able to get the Elite Trainer box next Friday when it's released, but I would be absolutely stunned if you weren't able to pick one of these up at RRP at some point over the next few months. Now, my final point I want to make in this video, because I do think this is really important, can we all ignore stores that are trying to take advantage of us, please? So, now I'm not going to name any names here because I don't want to give them any publicity, but a couple of the bigger online sellers are starting to do things which are, let's just say, I'm not particularly in favour of. So a great example here would be the one-pack blisters that are coming around for battle styles. Now, one of them is featuring Charmander. Charmander is a fairly popular Pokemon. But I want you to see the difference between these two listings and the reasons why I really think we need to stop using shops that do this. Again, I'm not trying to name any shops here. There are many that do this. I'm just giving you an example. I could give you half a dozen more. If we look at the Arrokuda blister, it's there for $4.45, and they tell you that the RRP is $4.99, and you are making a saving of 54p or 11%. If we look at the Charmander one-pack blister, it's selling for $6.95. Now, this is annoying because this is a pre-release product. It's not out yet, and they are already trying to sell above RRP, which annoys me. But what really annoys me here is that, yeah, they've not told us the RRP. The one below RRP, oh yeah, here's the RRP, here's your saving. The one above RRP. So they are actively trying to deceive their customers. And I'm sorry, there is no counter-argument here. There is nothing here but an actual deliberate attempt to deceive your customers, trying to trick them into thinking you're not charging above RRP, because if you weren't trying to trick them, you would put the RRP on. And there are several sites that do this. I'm not naming any individually. Every site that does this always puts the RRP on every single product where they're cheaper, and always leaves it off every single product where they're more expensive. They are trying to take advantage of us. I have basically got a list of these shops now that I will not use. I will not support these shops because, again, they're taking advantage of the lower supplier because of the pandemic. This is overall good news, because what should happen over the next few months, Pokemon are ramping up production, and in theory, it looks like factories and all are going to be starting to get higher capacity in the not too distant future. Shipping is going to get higher capacity in the not too distant future. Things are going to get better. And then there should be a lot more stock available. And these scalpers, and it's not just scalpers, it's companies taking advantage of us, should essentially stop doing so. My plea to you guys, when stock is plentiful and you can buy it anywhere, which should happen in the not too distant future, please remember the shops that looked after you. Please remember the shops that didn't price gouge, and please go and buy from there. And the shops that have been price gouging all the way along, please leave them with mounds of unsold product to let them know that we saw what they did and we didn't appreciate it. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Great news, if a little bit obvious, and supply is going to be figured out. It's nice to have a good old business rant. I don't get to do it as much as I'd like. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know your opinion on this. So go nuts, be nice. And this is one of those potentially heated topics, so please do be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.